Okay, welcome to Experience This. This is our first episode. We have Laurie and Bruce, and I'm Christian. We're going to do a quick intro here and discuss what this channel, what this group is all about. And we're going to talk about a couple of subjects for the experiences industry today. But first, we'll do an intro and just sort of go around and talk about what we expect from this. Laurie, do you want to jump in and do an intro?
Sure. So I've been in the experiences industry now for, I don't know, probably 17 or 18 years. Most of that with Smart Destinations, Go City, Leisure Pass Group. And so very focused on the attractions industry, tours, activities, etc., both from the distribution side as well as in development of product, launching new markets, that sort of thing. And the last year, I've been involved in launching Insightful International, which is a consultancy business, also specializing in distribution strategy, as well as product development and that sort of thing. So I am looking forward to some great conversations with Bruce and Christian, and I'm sure we'll have quite a few interesting speakers coming on, guests joining. But really wanting to focus on all things experiences with an edge, as Bruce has made it quite well known. This is an important piece of this. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm Bruce Rosard, one of the co-founders of Arrival. What many of the organizations out there and the people out there don't know is I actually got into the experiences business many years ago as a tour operator. I was a tour operator pretty much fresh out of college, and it was a ski tour operator, so it was very experiential, and I did that for well over 20 years. And after a lengthy stint at Focusrite, Douglas and I and Alex Kramer joined together and created Arrival. And it's been quite a ride, going way up, and then down during COVID, and now we're back on our way up. And this is going to be really cool. We're looking at this being kind of a hybrid between a podcast and the glory days of Clubhouse that Christian really took on himself and created a network and a social gathering around. So we're looking to recreate that and make this real discussion piece. And as Laurie said, with an edge for the experiences industry in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, great. I'm Christian. I spent my career mostly doing hop-on, hop-off buses in San Francisco.
Otherwise known as ho-hos?
Ho-hos to some people, to those in the know. And then the last 3 years, really been focused on Magpie. So Magpie is a content management platform for the experiences industry. So, you know, we all call it experiences now. I think that's become the word. Before it was probably tours and activities. Attractions wasn't part of that word, but I think what we're talking about is all the things you do when you get there, right? So it's tours, activities, attractions, experiences, and it has become a broader category.
Well, yeah, because it could really include tickets to sporting events. I mean, we have a lot of MLB teams coming to Arrival events now. Broadway has always been involved in experiences. So shows, tickets, all of that is part of experiences. The one thing that typically most of us don't talk about are restaurants, for example, shopping. And shopping is a big experience for a lot of travelers. But it's right. Like when I got into this, it was tours and activities. But most of the revenue is created by attractions, right? So we had to say tours, activities, and attractions. And then Airbnb created Airbnb experiences, and TripAdvisor followed along and said TripAdvisor experiences. And it's better to have one word called experiences than tours, activities, attractions, and experiences.
Well, yeah, and was it Airbnb that can be credited with the whole experiences, the entree into that, you know, to that naming convention? Weren't they the first ones, like as you said, that did it?
I think customer facing they were.
I think so too. Yeah, I think
we can thank them for that.
Well, we should call up Brian and let him know and see how much money they are still hemorrhaging from their experiences business, but that's a whole nother topic.
They also changed the market size, right? The TAM, the total addressable market. I think Arrival published that at 250 billion, 254 billion or something. And then the Airbnbs was, I think, 1.3 trillion. which kind of works for when you're trying to go IPO, but they included a lot of that stuff that Arrival wouldn't include. Everything except restaurants, but they include some restaurant experiences and a lot of other things in that. Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting too is like, you just mentioned, Christian, the that they were sort of the first ones to go out there with these different experiences, right? Maybe a little bit more local, maybe a little bit more out of the box. And now, what I've noticed is you've got these OTAs that are coming out with almost more of like your Groupon experiences, like that are really hyper local, the play at the gym with your kid and then go to a petting farm. And so you've got companies like Love to Visit out of the UK who have all of these, sort of attractions you would anticipate seeing, as well as activities, but then also these sort of random local activities that you would never see on an OTA. And I just noticed that's coming out more and more, like the little guys, and they're real little too.
Well, and that's what Airbnb tried to empower, as they did in lodging. And if you have an apartment, you have a bed in your apartment, you can rent it out, right? That was the original Airbnb model. In the experiences model, and they're still trying to stand with it. I don't know exactly how they're doing. They don't want to work with a company, they want to work with a person. So you're getting a tour of Boulder, Colorado with Bruce, who's going to take you around on his tour the way he's got it set up. It can't be, the Boulder Bike Tour Company and you don't know the guide. That was the original model with Airbnb experiences. I think that's still how they do it. And comparables are with locals and tours by locals, both of which have a lot more volume because of different ways that they market and do things than Airbnb experiences does. As far as I know, I don't know that for a fact.
More, and I'm not going to say mainstream, but there's a lot more operators that are not necessarily, your neighbor Joe hosting a dinner. But they're operators that have regularly scheduled tours that are now selling on Airbnb experiences. And actually, it seems to me like most of them have pretty good things to say about it, from what I'm, understanding. But in any case, I do think they are branching out a little bit more.
So this leads to a really good place. As we try to figure out what is Experience.This, and we let the audience know what is Experience.This. This is an interesting topic. Let's bring in an operator or a person who's been successful on Airbnb experiences. Tell us what it's like. What have you seen? What's different than working with some of the other OTAs? Are you finding that it has to be one specific guide, or can you actually open it up to a company? What are some of the issues and ideas and tricks in there?
I like that. I like that. I also think that there's an opportunity there for operators that maybe they're not even really aware of, which, this is obviously a fantastic thing. But I know that Christian is like chomping at the bit to talk about what did we call it?
ChatGPT. Well, let me, before we get into that, because it is pretty exciting, but so we do want to, part of the Experience.This is we want to bring in other people. This is not just us three sitting here talking. So reach out to us if you think you've got a topic that you'd like to talk about. We want to keep these conversations somewhat topical and talk about what's happened recently in the industry, in the travel industry, especially experiences. So we're going to focus on experiences, but often that does overlap with hotels and air and transport and maybe restaurants and other things. So we do want to talk to other people. So reach out if you'd like to jump on the show and talk about a certain topic. And we may have multiple guests each time we record. We just want to really keep it fresh and have a general conversation. The idea is we're not going to talk operations. There are other great groups that have really detailed operational discussions about how to set up your insurance for your bus company, and that we don't want to go into that. Those valuable conversations to have, but it's not the point of this group. I think we're more talking about the industry. A lot of that's distribution, but not all, and just sort of trends and how the sector's and hopefully advancing, how things are changing. But yeah, on that note, on things changing, ChatGPT, as most people know, came out this weekend. Have you guys played with it yet?
I'm not one of those most people. What the hell is ChatGPT?
It's not a very good name for marketing, is it? ChatGPT. But
What is the GPT, first of all,
I don't
Christian?
even know what it stands for, but I played with it a lot last year. It's, for those that don't know what it is, it's AI. It's generative AI. So you can ask the platform. It's called OpenAI, which is the group that created this thing. And basically you go in and you ask it to give you results. It's like going into a Google search. So you can go in and you can say, create a blog post on the top 10 things to do in San Francisco on Christmas. And it's going to take about 5 seconds, and it's going to give you a 1,000-word blog post, which is actually really good. You could go in and say, can you create, Skiff just did one, I think it was, can you create me a 3-day itinerary on visiting New York? I'm interested in visiting mosques and halal food or something like that. And it gives you it goes off, and it's got the world of information up to 2021, and it gives you a result, a complex result. It can generate code to create a website if you ask it to.
So hold on a second. I thought Google has come out very clearly that they don't want AI content. They're not going to use that in SEO, and they're going to try really hard not to pay attention to AI content. Is this
absolutely? I don't know the number, but if you imagine, especially in our industry, the amount, and I'm responsible for a lot of these on my company. We used to write blog posts all day on top 10 things to do, top photo spots in all that stuff. Everything that's been written up to this day in the last 25 years, you could now generate in a couple of hours. You could replicate every single piece of content in the travel industry in a couple of hours. Maybe not a couple of hours, but you don't have to lift a finger. And you could publish that tomorrow. The problem Google has is they have to work out what's AI and what's not. And they have ways to do that, but then the AI is also quite clever, and it knows what Google's looking for, and what Google's looking for, it's going to try and it's that race, right? And it's difficult when you read some of this content to tell that it's been written by a computer.
It's interesting, one of the points you made, Christian, on LinkedIn about, you sort of don't know who's really talking, because you read something that somebody puts their name on, and you think that, okay, this is coming from this person. But what if it's really not coming from that person? And so, the lines are become so blurred, especially if you are a writer or a content creator, and, you have a voice, right? You have your own voice. And so what happens when you start using information and then getting, and I know we talked about the word lazy, maybe it's not, I don't know if it's the right word or not, but what happens to your voice when you start using information? And if you don't tweak it, if you don't work with it, it's one thing to utilize the information like you would if you were just searching for something on Google, but to basically take what's delivered to you, which that's the temptation, right? Because it's so simple, and then hand it over is, I feel like that's going to be, I don't know. I just question that.
We're getting there, right? I was talking to my son. His first thing was, well, isn't every kid in school going to use this? Absolutely. This is done as of today. You can tell this thing to write a 2,000-word essay on the history of the Roman Empire in a 12-year-old's voice, and add in 4 spelling mistakes and mix up there and there, so it looks like a 12-year-old wrote it, and it's done. And you could do that a million times today.
Remember the days when, okay, maybe I'm dating myself, but remember the days when Cliff Notes was like, you're not supposed to use them? I mean, and now here we are.
Cliff Notes on steroids? Yeah, it's a whole different thing, right? So ChatGPT, is it a standard? Is it a company? Is it a product? What is it?
So it's done by Open API, so it's an open.
So it's open source.
Open source.
Go and use it, but it's typically about. It's when I hear chat, I thought it was more about creating chat in a real open source.
You can speak into it, Bruce. You don't have to just type into it.
So when you speak into it, and you could say, I want to see a 2,000 word paper on the Roman Empire in a 12-year-old voice, and that's all I have to say. And it's going to give me a 2,000 word paper.
But
And
yeah, the reason it's called chat, this version remembers what you previously asked it. So you can say, create an itinerary for New York next week, and it's going to go, and then
wow.
say, can you tell me where that restaurant is on Thursday? And it says, yeah. Hey,
So let's talk about a few true, it's very new, right? It came out this weekend. What are some of the applications for the experiences industry that you can imagine?
Well, itineraries, travel recommendations, blogs, improved search engine optimization, similar to like what Christian was just saying, how it remembers your preferences, which is another whole like segue into the whole AI thing to begin with. Marketing purposes other than SEO, there's probably got to be other marketing, opportunities.
And interestingly, those are the opportunities, but those by definition are also all the pieces that have now been commoditized overnight. So some people are looking at this thinking, well, great, I can go make 1,000 blog posts tomorrow morning, which you can, but so can other 8 billion people in the world. So those, Google understands that. Google, let's assume, are 5 years ahead. Google has their own AI. They know all about this. This didn't, they didn't just wake up to see this on Thursday morning last week. So they're all over it. But all that content has now been commoditized. So if you build a company on that content and you think your itineraries are your differentiator, they're probably not as of today. And
That's
not everyone's
cool.
going to jump on this overnight, so you've got time, but it's commoditized.
There was a company, is it Jonathan Ecole? I can never pronounce his last name. It could be, you know who I mean?
Places dot, right? Places dot, is that
Places dot, and it was all based on this kind of concept. He's not working there anymore. Maybe we should bring him on. That would be an interesting person to bring on to talk about this. What was their success or lack of success caused by? Because, I think that was going to be their secret sauce. And it sounds like they got overcome by an open source chat application on Thursday.
Yeah, and the other part of it is personalization, which I spend a lot of time arguing against personalization because I don't think the engines are there, but this may make a change. So if I want to go to New York next week and I want to do a bike ride on the Wednesday afternoon and I want to eat eggs on the Friday morning, I could just type all that in. I can literally type those things in. I want to eat eggs on Friday morning, bike ride Wednesday afternoon, and see 4 museums, but not history. And that's it. This thing's going to give me an exact itinerary, including those. And that's what a human does today and would spend a long time researching, because that information doesn't sit in one place. So you have to go and look at various.
All right, that's super interesting. So, because I agree with you, personalization is, so many people have been working on it for so long, and it's so hard, it's almost impossible the way our world works. But you're saying once this AI knows you and knows the kind of bike riding you like to do, you don't like mountain biking, you like road riding, and you want to average 70 miles a ride. That's like, you now have told this that's what you like. And when you go to breakfast, you don't want Denny's, you want some cool place where you can get eggs Benedict. And when you go to a museum, you want to see modern art, not Roman art or whatever. And you're saying that you could just say all that, and that's how you're going to get your personalization in the future, instead of some company trying to figure out how to personalize options for you. Is that?
And my argument against personalization, a lot of it is that we have different personas, right? I'm going with my wife to New York. Next time I'm going with my kids to Disney.
Exactly. That's why it's
now,
been,
I say, I'm going to New York with a bunch of guys. We all love outdoor activities. We don't like this. We don't want to sit down and have romantic dinners together. Done. Send me.
You're going to go to a pub where you can watch what you call football, what I call soccer, and you can see the Brits beat whoever they're playing next week or next time at the World Cup.
English, don't upset the Scottish people listening, or the Welsh.
I was done intentionally. Yeah. That's just, gosh, that's huge. But it's not a company. Like, we can't go and find someone that's been doing this that we can say, come up on the arrival stage and tell us all about this. Like, it's like in a black box.
Well, you're going to have a million experts who can sit there and have used the open API and they've tested it for all kinds of applications, and there's going to be a million companies, startups tomorrow built on this, because it's one thing having the open source tools to use, but you've still got to use them. It's not you can't put it on your website right now. You could do an application, but you need tools to get this out to the public, to make
Tools and some engineers to do
and
it.
it's not, I mean, it still has its limitations too. You know, like, I think that all of their data only goes through the end of 2021, as Kristen was just saying. So if you, like, I just typed in that I wanted to get some information on what I should do this weekend in Boston. Well, it's not going to give me that because it doesn't have that, you know, so, but it's interesting to think about personalization, because that was actually one of the topics. I listened in on some of the Blue Loop Innovation Festival over the last few days. And the whole idea of personalization and AI was definitely something that was discussed a lot. And the idea that, you know, through AI, AR, VR, you could, you know, you're going to get to a point where you're just going, companies are going to know all of your preferences before you even, you know, you log on, and they can collect the information, or they have the information, they use it to suggest, you know, what you should drink when you get to Paris, and what your, they have your favorite, you know, bread at this bakery over here. And by the way, we know you love bikes, so why don't you go jump on this, you know, this bike touring company along the Seine, you know, so interesting stuff like that. There was actually one, Merlin was talking about, Mary Coriano, she's the head of product. She was talking about how they're looking right now at retail at theme parks, and how you would bring in retail to this conversation, build your own avatar, and you sort of virtually, you enter into this world where you can go into their retail shops, buy a product, and then when you go to the theme park, you basically go and pick it up or something like that, but engage with the theme park and the resort, the attraction, whatever, before. But anyway, the whole personalization conversation was a big, huge part of the Blue Loop Festival, which it's interesting. And I guess what about data protection and privacy and all that kind of thing? Like, how does that come into play?
Oh, blockchain.
Blockchain.
That's it. Done.
That's it. Okay, so blockchain, we got that one figured out. So here's something I think and this kind of, we're still figuring out, what is this experience this going to look like? We've identified a really, really interesting topic that's brand new, that has huge implications. I think we need to find a couple of people that are further along than we are, bring them in, and let's have a show about it. Everyone want to do that? Raise your hand. Yeah, does that sound all right?
I'm in, yeah.
I'm in.
Raise your hand, Christian.
I've been outvoted already. It doesn't matter, but I'm in.
So I think we do that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Unless you had one more thing. Did you have one to close, or?
All right, I gotta share some of this. If you guys don't mind, I thought some of this was really interesting. So Booking.com came out with their 2023 travel trends. I don't know if you saw that. I found it on this very cool subscription called Globe Trenders. Did not know about it before, but I'm all about it now. In any case, so first of all, they surveyed 24,000 travelers, 32 countries. Now, 58% said that in 23, they want to learn survival skills. So they want to go off the grid and, you know, really get into like the whole campfire cabins, like really, really trying to stay alive and do some crazy things there. 43% said they were turning to virtual for inspiration, or turning to metaverse for inspiration, which, you know, we've all been hearing about. That's not
43% turn into metaverse. which doesn't really exist.
Right.
I
They
know.
want to. They want to.
They
They're
want to.
amenable to it. Let's put it that way. But what I think was interesting is, all this talk about VR, AR, AI, etc. Now there's a thing where, let's see, there's a huge chunk of people that want to experience what it was like in the pre-digital era. So they want to go back to the basics. And what I thought was really funny was they're talking about, the 80s and 90s. And I'm thinking, okay, if for some reason that doesn't sound like it was like 100 years ago, but okay. I guess it was before digital. So the millennials and Gen Zs want to experience life as their parents knew it when, there was not a telephone or.
I call bullshit on that. Sorry. Like, you're going to go to a millennial and a Gen Z and say, have a great vacation, but first give me your phone.
You
Yeah,
don't experience it for like an hour, Bruce, or like a day. Maybe.
right.
There
Exactly.
is no way.
That's what I would think. 50% want a complete culture shock. Like they want an experience where, they have no idea where they're going. They have a one-way ticket. You've heard about tour operators that are doing that. And then this last one I thought was pretty interesting. 36% want some kind of a spiritual experience, such as experience alternative substances and plant-based psychedelics. So this is like a new company now. Christian, I don't know if you want to take on another company, but this is a thing. So anyway, I thought it was very interesting because there was some unique stuff in there versus just the basic, everybody still wants to travel kind of information.
Yeah, I love it. I love all this. I know Douglas at Arrival writes about. You guys did that big report, Bruce, right? I think that big survey you did. Everyone's all about experiences, which has been growing every year, but something different. And that's what we started this conversation with Airbnb experiences, which is their point. It's not mass market, but it doesn't need to be to have a big enough niche for people to create companies in. And it's going to be growing from here on out, I think. So I think it's great that people want to do these survival. I question the survival people. Did they survey everyone in Idaho or something? Is that where they get that from?
Christian, I think their idea of survival is going out to some really luxurious cabin in the woods and then building a fire.
Without a phone. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, running naked through the forest, like,
Yeah.
There's also
without really fast Wi-Fi for half an hour.
I have this huge disconnect with customer surveys. Don't tell Douglas I said this. When you look at literally 80% of people say they would pay more for a sustainable trip or a trip that really focuses on DEI and inclusiveness, et cetera. 80% will pay more. That's what they say in the survey. The reality of the percentage that do is closer to what, 20%, maybe,
Yeah.
So I
That
always
is
think
true, Bruce, that is true. But I think that it always starts with a conversation, and it's getting more and more and more important. And it's being discussed.
absolutely. I totally agree with that. So at least it's being considered. Anyway, interesting stuff.
And I think the point is, because I have the same feeling as Bruce, about surveys. But yeah, the point that people are talking about it doesn't mean it's happening now or next year. But the fact that they're talking about it means it will be a trend in the future, not necessarily that people who say they're going to do this next year will do this.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, great, guys. I think we should wrap up for today. I don't know when we're going to do the next one, and we're not going to commit today to how often we're going to do these, but let's see what happens, and we'll bring some new subjects and hopefully bring some new people in for next time.
Great.
All right. Sounds good. See you guys.
Good. All right. See you guys. All right. Take care.